Hello and welcome back, my partners in crime. Welcome back to Murder Annals for another true crime. Now today's crime is an unsolved disappearance of a very young child and her disappearance. Now this little Sheila Fox, this is a very old case. I wanted to highlight this case because I like to do this at Christmas time. I like to highlight very old cold cases that we shouldn't forget about, right? This was a very young child that was taken and has never been found. Her body's never been found. And this little Sheila Fox, she was born in January 1938 and she disappeared on the 18th of August 1944. So from 1938 to 1944, this means that this little girl was 6 years old at the time of her disappearance. Very sad. Now she was an English girl and she disappeared at the age of 6 from Farnworth in Lancashire, England, and it was called actually one of the World War II's England's most baffling mysteries, this case, and the press dubbed the girl as the girl in the green Mac, because this little girl, when she went missing, she was on her way home from school about 4 p.m. and that's when she was last seen, and she was wearing this green Mac. Now I know this case is very old and many people say to me, oh, things like this didn't happen in our day. You know, when we talk about murders and, you know, disappearances of very young children by predators and stuff like this, they, you know, lots of people say it didn't happen. Well, it really did happen, and it's been happening for many years even before that. I mean, we're talking about, aren't we, in the days before YouTube, Twitter, you know, Instagram, Facebook, where we could put out a missing child and stuff like this, and these cases are put out there to make you aware of what's going on. In 1944 that wasn't happening. We was in the middle of a war. The war didn't end until 1945, right? So we have this little girl, don't we, you know, 6-year-old, and her character was very shy child. She was, you know, listen, I've got one photo of her, that's all I've got of this young girl. But she was last seen, you know, leaving her school at 4 o'clock, as I said, in her little green Mac, and off she went. Now there has been rumours with this case in the early days, and I suppose as cases become colder, people add their bits where they said that she was seen with a man and she was sitting on the handlebars of his bike. It's actually untrue. There's no evidence of that at all, actually, not sustainable evidence at all of that. It really did turn out to be that the last time that this young girl was seen, this 6-year-old girl, was walking out of the school, and literally she disappeared off the face of the earth. That's really what happened to little Sheila Fox. This, you know, 18th of August 1944. And you know, when I do these old cases, and I love to do cold cases like this, because you can see, I think, as the generations have gone through, don't forget her mother and father have passed away without knowing what's happened to their child, and I really feel for these. But I think it also highlights these sort of cases, that sometimes no matter how much you look and what you do in these cases, when we have children that's gone missing, that sometimes they're just never found at all. They're just never found. And you know, when we don't have CCTV, when we don't have door cams and webcams and everything else going, you know, where you pick up sort of, you know, information on some of these children, evidence of where they may go, it's very difficult, isn't it? So these poor people searched. Now you had the police in them days also. Don't forget, as I said, there was a war going on. You had a lot of people now looking for this child, not only from different police forces, they all sort of got together, but also the community. And I must say that until this day, the community in this area have never forgot Sheila Fox, and have never stopped looking, and have never stopped asking for her case to be put out there, because someone still just may know something. So I suppose we have to talk about the reports that were made at times. So we had now People that were accompanying or companions of little Sheila said that she had been outside the bakery and was talking to a man, and that's where she had got on the bike handlebars and gone off with this man. As I said, that's sort of disputed really, because I think the people that accompany her would have only been quite young and everything else. There was other claims, I think, that she was also talking to this man, and this man was actually a white man, and I think he was well dressed, short dark hair and stuff. But you have to think, with this child who had this personality, who was very shy and didn't really talk a lot, 6-year-old, you had the war going on. The kids were a little bit different in them days. She had more to worry about, I think, in these sort of areas than that. Plus, children wasn't warned in them days about stranger danger and all this stuff that we talk about now. So for someone, if she was talking to someone at any point and probably went off with someone willingly, then yes, it probably would be someone that she knew. But I think when we know now more about predators, and especially when we have predators like this, which could have been an opportunity predator just passing by or whatever, he could have just grabbed her and gone. If it was someone she knew, then again, there's been no evidence of that, and there's also been no evidence of her body at all. There's no trace of anything actually ever reported again after that last sighting of her. She was leaving the schoolyard. That's why when I look at these cases, these old cases, and we're taking of what maybe witnesses may have said years down the line, we're not so sure. And I think when we look at what Sheila's parents have said, Sheila's parents stated that Sheila may have been attempting to meet her friends in London, right? Again, don't forget different times now, right? Different times now. Family members greatly affected by this event, long hope that she was still alive somewhere, and police really were unable to find. Now, neighbours of Fox's family stated that their hopes later changed when the speculation of this girl had been murdered. So we're talking about in 1944. The parents believed that she got on a train and went back to London to see family and friends. It wasn't in their mindset to think that their child had been abducted and murdered, right? It just wasn't in their mindset at all, until really as time went on, no one had heard from her, and then murder come to mind. Today's, when we think about when a child goes missing, it is murder, abduction and murder that come to our mind very fast. And we all know now that if a child isn't found within the first couple of hours, you can say 24 hours, but really a couple of hours, there's not much hope of finding that child alive in that time, let alone when we're talking about months and months and months and years. It's impossible. And if you haven't found any leads in them first, 2 to 48 hours, say, really, that case then really becomes unsolvable, really. So listen, this case has always been treated as a missing persons case. Now, because there's no definitive evidence that she had been murdered, where today we wouldn't do that. Today we would now be looking at this child abduction and it wouldn't be classed as a missing person. This is the whole differences, that we are looking at when you're looking at historical cases. Now, when we're looking at a murder case, of course, things are upped. The game's higher. A child goes missing now, it's bang, it's on. It's straight away. You're looking, you've got a certain timeline. In 1944, they didn't know that. But for this case to still be a missing persons case, it's it's strange. So on the night of her disappearance and the following days, extensive searches for Fox was conducted in areas of both by members of the force and by volunteers, and there was many volunteers in this area. And as I said, this community has continued to stick by their really enhanced search for this child, really, and for evidence around this case. So including the clothing, so there was not any evidence, not even the clothing she was wearing, or whatever. There was nothing ever found of this child. So obviously now we know, when we look at it from today's case, that this child was abducted from there and taken and probably murdered somewhere else, right? Probably quite quickly. So an attempt was made in 1948 to link her disappearance with a tall, thin man wanted for stabbing 2 other children. Searches for Fox were expanded in 2001 and police were notified of an individual claiming he had witnessed a 20-year-old resident digging up an area in the garden at the time she had vanished. During these later hours of night, I suppose, this is just someone saying, but listen, people used to dig up the garden quite a lot in them days. They used to bury rubbish, to tell you the truth. But anyway, and the ties led to the case being reopened and investigated. The location was fairly close to where she had lived, so it's probably, as what they've said, that they believe that it was someone she knew, or actually maybe not knew personally, but recognised to be able to go with them quite willingly, because she was quite a shy child. So the residents expressed doubt that anything would be found. I think the property at the time was owned by a man seen digging and is now deceased. This man was also convicted of rape 6 years after the disappearance and had later been convicted of child sex offences in the 1960s. So it probably was him. Doesn't mean to say he buried her in that garden. This site was later excavated manually by authorities in hope of finding Fox's remains. I think the procedures again began on the 5th of June 2001, so really we've gone from 1944 to 2001, we're still searching for this skull. And I think in the last few days of that thing, they sort of was unsuccessful. They just knew there was nothing there of any evidential value, and really there was no knowledge of any of these circumstances really that really put this girl in that place. Listen, the only way you're going to find this girl now is by accident, alright? If this man did kill her, or someone like him killed her, we now know, we talk about paedophile rings and people sticking together and stuff like that. There may have been more than one. This girl will only ever be found now, her remains, by accident, if someone's digging up somewhere, building something, whatever, or she may never be found. So listen, this is a very sad case of Sheila Fox, the disappearance. So again, if you know anything, or you have any information from 1944 and that you would like to come forward and you want to say something about this case, please make what you know known. Thanks for watching. Till the next time. Bye bye.